often bring up with my clients, I ask them about boundaries, and when we talk about that, especially with men, they'll usually give me F's on all these grades. When we say boundary, we usually talking about boundary establishment. It's three other aspects to it though. First aspect is just boundary recognition. Being able to understand, I need to draw this line in the sand in some way, shape, or form. And usually the women we with, they haven't had a history of men who've been able to do that. Most men don't even see the boundary or the need for it. Second is boundary establishment. Third, and this is where a lot of us struggle at, is boundary maintenance. If we do say something, we don't come around the block. We don't spin the block every time there's an infraction based on what she agreed to do better. And we kind of just leave it to the air, and over time, we feel resentment. We feel the need to just shut up because she's not doing what she said she was going to do. And before you know, we got a lot of women who have a history of men not holding them accountable. So they don't have no practice. Like we talked about yesterday with Jock, when we asked, was it 80-20? He was pretty much saying it's a lot of stuff I don't bring up. That's part of why there's no accountability.
Trill, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I think that there's like an implied victimhood when it comes to women.
Facts.
Especially in relationships. If a relationship ends and you don't know nothing else about it, first thought is, well, what did he do to end it? If a man cheats, he's just a horrible person. How can you disrespect your relationship like that? A woman cheats, well, what did he do to make her cheat? Parenting, if a dad's a horrible dad, he's not in the kid's life, oh, you're deadbeat, he this, he that, he da-da-da. A woman's a horrible mother, whoa. Big Mama did the best she could. Right? There's an implied victimhood, and because of that, we've been kind of programmed to like see women and like not hold them accountable. That's why even when we were discussing like holding them accountable for things within a relationship, if she starts crying, most men will be like, okay, you know what?
We shut down.
You got it. You see what I'm saying? Instead of like, no, finish the tears, but we're gonna get back to the shit we was talking about. But again, there's an implied victimhood, like she's the weaker vessel or whatever, so we kind of treat her like that. Even as kids, like if a boy does something wrong, we get dead on his ass. I see young boys getting punched in the chest and all type of shit to like make him tougher. Little girl do something wrong, somebody raise their tone to, whoa, don't talk to my baby like that. Who the hell is you talking to? You know what I mean? So it's an implied victimhood. It starts young, and then, you know, we expect them to have accountability as adults when they never practiced it at a younger age.
Now, does these thoughts go hand in hand, though? If we're pushing for a lot of men to be leaders, and we take pride in that leadership, and we also chastise women for not necessarily following said leadership in relationships, is there some sense of, okay, well, those two things go hand in hand? There should be less accountability on this partner because essentially they're not the leader in a relationship. So when you're talking about the relationship failing, what did he do? Is that part of what comes with leadership into a relationship?
Why don't men keep their boundaries after they set them?
I would probably say one reason why men don't keep the boundaries that they set is because, what's the old saying, you get more flies with honey, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? You get more flies with honey. You want to still be some sort of nice to get what you want. You dig what I'm saying? If you constantly cutting the wall off, you know, we already have to be this, that, and the other to be chosen, right? You know what I'm saying? As a man, you have to really, you know what I'm saying, do some things to be chosen. You have to be on the right side of women if you want them to choose you. Right. So if you being too hard on them before you even establish yourself as the dominant one, you might find yourself, you know what I'm saying, in a predicament. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that I think personally why it's hard to keep those boundaries if you aren't stern in your delivery. Some individuals aren't stern in their delivery. Now, I'll be honest, somebody like myself, I'm going to keep it the same way at all times. I'm stern in my delivery because I know the results that I've been getting are what I'm looking for. But if you aren't sure of that, if you aren't in a position to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to hold it down, I'm going to do this, and this, you might bend. You know what I'm saying? You might go soft on them, as they say. You know what I'm saying? You might be a little softer on your boundaries. So I think it depends on that particular person, if they are used to holding that ground and holding those boundaries.
Shout out to Trill. It's been a minute since we seen him around, but shout out to homie, doing real good. I agree with what Trill and Buddy, the first dude that was speaking, was saying. I think I've been kind of speaking on that for the last 2-3 years, and I've realized that sometimes people hear me saying that men are responsible for everything, and they hear you never hold women accountable for anything. And in my mind, it was implied that you were holding your specific woman accountable, and society was holding us as men accountable. I think maybe that portion of the conversation I just assumed was a given. But to be specific, when I be saying like it's all on the man's fault, part of it being your fault was holding her accountable within the relationship and reinforcing them boundaries. So when I was talking about things like you have to set your specific boundary lines early in the relationship, in the initial portion, included in the betting. As long as you know she wants to be there, then you need to set your boundaries at that point, because she's accepting to follow those things to stay there once you know she wants to be there. As soon as you know she wants to be there, that's when you kind of start setting those boundaries. And then from there, you have to continue to reinforce them in order for somebody to understand that those are actual boundaries and it's not just suggestions. Yeah, I think they spot on. And yeah, women don't get held accountable by society. It's gonna be a lot of levers most of the time to come in and save them, be it the government, family, friends. But and men, we have a different experience when it comes to being held accountable. We might get hurt, deleted, imprisoned, falsely accused. All type of crazy stuff can happen as a male. So we understand, and we try and prepare our kids for that. And that's not the exact same thing we prepare our daughters with. But essentially, when I'm saying men are responsible for everything, I'm saying a daughter that doesn't understand that she has a role that needs to be her father failed at that point. And if you are marrying a woman who doesn't hold herself accountable, or you can't speak to and get any changes, then you failed as a leader. Not that she doesn't have any accountability, and not that she shouldn't have any structure, but you failed to maintain those things, because society can't hold women in mass. Only the individual man in the society holds the man responsible. So I hope that clears that up for anybody who always thought I never was saying that women do anything wrong.
That's good. I would say to kind of add to the conversation, I would say that on the average, men have less options. So having boundaries would definitely sometimes, I would say oftentimes, minimize even fewer options than the ones that they do have, right? So now that puts them in a position to have to alter some of the boundaries they have so that they can accept the options that they do have. It's just a thought. And then as the relationship transition, if he does get someone, now there's a sense of comfortability that he has, and so he kind of lets his guard down maybe, and is more in love or more in wanting to be with her. And then when it gets to the point of I would say marriage, now it's in a situation where he doesn't want to appear to be a failure, even though she has went against his boundaries, because this is the woman that you chose, and it's known in society that it's the man that's going to be responsible for why the relationship ended. So in his mind, I would say potentially he would think, you know what, I failed at choosing wisely, so I may have to reduce my boundaries so that I can be okay. And then now you have the kids that are involved in said situation. And so now I have to drop my boundaries a little bit further now because I want to be here for my family and for my kids. So I think it changes throughout the duration of the process of a relationship is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Or was you on finish saying something, Marcus?
Yeah, I just had a quick thing. I think that's part of the thing that I may not factor in all the way about the options that you have when doing the boundary setting. But the prerequisite word that I would use is once you know she actually wants to be there. So typically, once the woman wants to be with you, then you can enforce those boundaries. Prior to, because she'll be more receptive to being pliable or molded or whatever word you want to use to going along with what you got. But I agree, it does become very difficult if you don't have an option to continue to just funnel people in and out. So I agree with you.
You don't think that the boundaries should be set, like a man should know his boundaries up front, and then I think that's going to be the challenge,
to be able to say these are my boundaries all the way out, right? Like, because there'll be some things that you probably didn't even know was a boundary until she did something. You like that's not. I don't rock with that, right? Especially young as a young man trying to figure things out. Uh, so I would say to somewhat to your point is that you want to know at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 things that you like. These are deal breakers. And if she does these, she don't even get the option for me to enforce them. I'm leaving. That's my thought process.
I know one of the things that before I married my wife was setting them boundaries early. Now, my wife thought, she said, "Oh, you an asshole." I said, "Yeah," and I embrace it. I have no problem with that. But this is what I do and what I don't do. This is what I believe and I don't believe. This is what I said. But then once I explained to her more in detail, because she was asking the clarifying questions like she should, and I respect that. But once I went into more detail on why I felt this way, why do I think like this, why do I move like this? Once she got that clarity, it was a lot better. Then she realized, well, shit, some of his are just like mine. I just may call it something different. I look at it differently like that. But saying these are things that I had to present to her. Now, look, you had enough time before I even engaged to you. I mean, got engaged to you. You could just walked away. If you don't feel like you can live up to those boundaries, those standards, then you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to walk away, and I can accept that. My way is not for everybody. I'm not for everybody, but I feel like I'm for a particular woman who has the patience and the understanding that she can at least deal with it, accept it. You know what I'm saying? And and like I shared with her, it's not like it's something that's going to be hard for you to do. You can be respectful, and as long as you be respectful, we can be cool. Don't cheat. Neither one of us cheat. And the third one's, we're not going to use the D word. We're not going to use divorce as an option. Don't make that an option, and this won't be a problem.
Do we treat women like victims without noticing it?
Okay.
I personally don't think so, but I've never really sat and thought about it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I treat women as the humans that they are, right? You know what I'm saying? I treat them as the humans they are versus the human that I am. I'm personally the individual that likes to be like, we're not going to say all men do this or all women do that. You know what I'm saying? It's something I bring up every time we in a setting with other individuals, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't like when people try and minimize it to a gender or why somebody acts the way they act. No, I just want to be able to be like, listen, people do this, let's act accordingly. And so that's why I don't want to feel like I treat them as a victim. I treat them as a human, you know what I'm saying, that may have some issues. Just like I know with some brothers that may have some issues. You dig what I'm saying? I want to make sure that we're speaking directly to what that issue is and not trying to blame it on the gender.
Can we get some maybe some clarification so we're talking the same definition? What would you consider victim? Outlaw, what would you consider victim?
Well, victim is, when you start to get into this woe is me mentality where we are speaking to, oh, this happened, so now that's why I'm this way. You dig what I'm saying? The victim. A victim is someone that they're in that circumstance they're in because of something that happened to them. That's the victim, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we understand that things happen, people are people. Let's adjust and act accordingly to that.
Okay. Because my thought process was the word that I heard was the weaker vessel. So my thought process was that I think biologically kind of consider them somewhat of a victim. A victim means that they need help, right? That's what a victim really is. There are stages to victimhood, obviously. Like, for example, I would say that men would typically want to open a door for a woman. If we are just people, then she can get her own door, or we don't need to be their provider if they're not the weaker vessel, if you will. We are supposed to be their spiritual leader or their emotional leader and things of that nature if we're just equal. So I would say that we do, and also how we'll hear how they talk to us. We can't talk to a woman how we talk to a man, right? And in the sense of how you communicate with them, because they're emotional individuals, they're going to typically going to respond to you based on tone, based on if they feel a certain way about you already, and then what you say, because they don't necessarily listen to the words automatically. So I think that we at times, and we sometimes even guard how we say things, because we know how it is in our presentation, they're going to consider it. So I think that we do subconsciously uh, kind of help them with their victimhood, as opposed to doing what Outlaw saying he does, is in speech to speak to them just like a human. But that would mean that you would have to identify how you're going to speak to all humans, because even as men, we talk to each other harshly, but we don't necessarily mean anything by it, right? And whereas with a woman, you can't just speak directly all the time, because she's going to feel like you meant something that you didn't mean to say. So overall, what I'm saying is I think that we give women more time, more passes in how, in a lot of aspects. And so I'm gonna leave it there, but that's what I think.
Facts, and I could agree with that, but the term victim, right? A victim is a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, or other event, right? Victim. That's what I'm speaking of. I'm not going to treat every woman like a victim. You dig what I'm saying? Just because these things haven't necessarily happened to them, right? A victim is somebody that something has happened to, so you almost have to put the kid gloves on, right? You know, but if that has not happened, everything isn't a reason to come up with the victim mentality. So I'm not going to treat everyone as if they were a victim. Now I can mix my words. I can be a little softer on my approach and things like that when I'm dealing with a woman, but I'm not considering her a victim, right? When we start to consider all women as victims, then we give them a certain power, right? We give them a certain power that's not even necessarily deserved, right? You're not a victim. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not. You're simply just not. A victim is someone that some trauma has happened to. And that's the problem that I see that we've gotten into nowadays, is that everybody thinks everything is trauma, right? Oh, everybody needs a therapist. Everything is trauma. Oh, I'm so woe is me. Like, bro, everything ain't trauma. Shit happens, get over it. Let's keep moving. Some things are traumatic, yes, but everything is not trauma. Your boyfriend breaking up with you or cheating on you in fucking freshman year in high school is not trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. We gotta draw the line somewhere.
And I agree. That's why I think is important to have in that part of the conversation, because who determines who's if she's a victim or not?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I
Mm-hmm.
think if we're not able to, have that conversation about what is a victim, right? To make sure that we're on the same page. So, for example, a woman who has started something and then is addressed, right? And now she tries to play as if she hasn't did something. I would say now she's playing the victim, because I'm responding to your statement, and you did something, but now you're trying to make it as if it's somebody else's fault, right? So I'm gonna put it as that is a victimhood scenario, where a woman knows how to be. Most women, I would say, know how to use their feminine ways to adjust how a man responds, right? And so that crying thing that they may do after they have been the one that had said something, or how about the time when a man says something to her about something he didn't like that she did, and then she gets upset at him for being upset at her, right? So now there's another sense of victimhood. So I'm with you. I just wanted to kind of get a clear understanding, so that as we have this conversation, that we can move forward easily, as opposed to starting with semantics, right? So I think that based upon societal norms, that we do typically give the woman the benefit of the doubt And so even in that scenario, we need to teach men to stand on business. If the woman has said something that offended you and broke a boundary, then you need to address her. And like Trill said in the clip, okay, you cried. Now let's really talk about what happened in this situation and how can we get it better, or do we need to move all like away from each other from this situation? So that's my thoughts.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and play a little more clip in there. We'll ask some more questions. That's cool. All right, there we go.
Yeah.